good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Connecting to audio, it says.
Hello.
Brilliant. Hello,
Good morning,
Janelle.
Janelle. How are you?
Hi. Good morning. I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Good. Good.
Very good. Very good. Hello, 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 Janelle. I'm pleased you're
Hey.
here. I'm pleased you're here. I'm pleased you're here. Very cool. Very cool. I look forward to our sessions, Janelle. They're very fun. They're really cool.
Good. Yeah, I do too.
A lot of magic in here. A lot of magic. A lot of power. Oh, I like that. I like that indeed. All right. Brilliant. 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 Very cool. How have you been, Janelle? How have you been?
I've been doing pretty good. Yeah, it was a really good week. I'd say I didn't really sleep good last night. I think my adrenals are just kind of messed up, but besides that, everything's fine. Just moving slow this morning.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I was kind of lying down until just before this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strange. You know, sunspots. I always blame it on sunspots.
Oh, is that what you?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's mysterious something. So, okay, anything mysterious, sunspots.
Sunspots. That's a good, that's a good thing to look at.
It works. It works. Well, there's also, potentially something to it because our brains are electromagnetic fields, and the sunspots they disrupt the electromagnetics in some way, or at least it's a electromagnetic interference. So it's as good an explanation as anything else, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll have to start remembering that when my brain's not working.
Right, sunspots. There you go. Exactly, and it makes sense. It makes sense. Look, those sunspots. I think they changed things somewhat, but it knocked out all of Canada's electricity once upon a time. A whole lot was sunspots.
Oh, wow.
It's a serious thing. So
yeah, there's a lot of truth apparently behind that.
So it makes sense that if we can affect something substantial like that, well, it can affect us too.
Actually, if you think about it, there's probably a lot of interferences and things going on that we're just so unaware of.
Okay.
I mean, it's surprising that we function as well as we do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. One second. Where were we lost? Where were we lost?
Is Beena here this morning?
No, Beena won't be here this morning.
Oh, she won't. Okay.
Take care of her. She had to leave just now a few months ago, but she has to take care of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I didn't know if we are gonna wait for her, or if she had a different schedule this morning or what.
That's good. I should have said something. Yeah, good luck.
That's okay.
Maybe she'll come back. Let's hope. But she has stuff to do. So yeah. What's going on?
So where we left off, if I remember correctly, I think we wrapped up the module 1, and we're on module 2, session 1, I believe. Yeah. I think that's. Usually I'll make a note of where I stopped, but I don't think I did this last time. So I'm just, that's what I thought I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember starting module 2.
No, I don't think we started it. I think you're right. Yeah, I think we just wrapped up the last one. I think we're kind of, that's just where time was. We didn't have time to start anything new.
Right. So,
cool. So this is, well, the first, it's numbered 1, which is the title. So really this is slide number 2. And it asks, what is a takeaway? And my repeat back is a takeaway is a personal benefit from the experiences that you go through, making a continuous growth.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think I ever used the word
Yeah.
let it.
It's a long thing for me, since I've been a kid, to take away what's of value to me. That was always so crucial and critical in all learning. I noticed that you'd learn something, and then or you hear or the next day it's like, what was that again? So I always said, what do I take away that's valuable, that's useful, that's beneficial, that I can use, that I can apply? It was so crucial. Um, anyway, so I just used the word takeaway, and then I just to make it something a bit more memorable, I just combined it, and I never saw it being used. And then let's see, when did I start to see it getting used? Uh, I think about 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago, I started to see it. All of a sudden, it just came, and
Mm.
yeah, that's interesting. Now you hear it everywhere.
Yeah, once you're aware of the concept and aware of what it, how you ask what it means to you, once you're just aware of all that, you can't
Right,
help but not see it.
right.
It's so obvious. So my takeaway from what a takeaway is, I guess, uh, I said life would end up meaningless without takeaways. These are
Exactly.
unique. They're uniquely designed to help us learn and grow our awareness. They are very specific and are catered to our wants and desires. And these are the wants and desires of our true selves, who we actually really are.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I mean, it's the personalness of the takeaway that
Mhm.
makes it so powerful, right?
Yes, the personalness. Yes,
Because it's you. You're not using someone else's takeaway. A takeaway. It's yours. It's what you find meaningful, what you find useful, what's pertinent and relevant to you. Yeah.
that's right. I don't know if I wrote this in my notes. I wrote it somewhere, but it it's somewhere in my notebook. But it's interesting, like someone or like two people, they can go through, or actually, I'll just say many people can go
Mm,
through the exact same scenario. For example, yeah, this is definitely my note, so I might repeat it later. I don't know. But anyway,
no problem.
um, they can go through the same situation. So let's just say there's like a bank robbery, just for
Mm,
sake of conversation, and there's
yeah.
30 different people stuck in the bank during the process. Well, at the end of it, and the police come and everybody's safe, and
Right.
they get the robbers, you interview each of the 20 people that went through it, and possibly even the robbers too, um,
Yeah.
and the story of what actually happened, it won't be the same. It'll be
Yeah.
different. Now
Yeah.
it'll be similar, but it'll be very
Right.
different with each experiences. And just it's very fascinating to me,
Yeah.
how that many people can go through something and it's so
Right.
different.
Right. Right. And those are, you're referring to eyewitness reports, and it's
Yes,
very different, what they describing from an eyewitness perspective. But what's even more amazing, if you were to ask, and like I said, there's some similarities and overlap, and they miss a detail here and miss a, and sometimes there's very substantial differences also, especially if there's trauma involved. But if you were to ask them, what do you take away from this? from a
Mm-hmm.
learning and a growth point of
Yes.
view, because a takeaway is not a witness report; it's a different thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's more of a repeat back, I guess. That's a repeat back
You're
of
right. I guess the repeat backs would be different.
right, right.
Yes.
But if you were to ask them, what do you take away from this, from a learning and growing point of view, from an awareness, from an understanding, learning point, now you're going to get absolutely 20 different
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Then it really shifts. Then it really shifts. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Most don't even, excuse me, most don't even think to do a takeaway on a circumstance like that.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's going to
Yeah.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people would probably answer, well, I'm not going to bank anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, or something like that. Right, right,
and
right.
then someone be like, that you'd only have maybe one or two that actually would have like deep meaning and depth. Just a lot of people aren't there yet with thinking, but maybe you'd be surprised. It'd be an interesting
You
little,
will be surprised, yes.
you
But
know,
also be kind of the full range. You'll be horrified and surprised and everything in between. It's
right. Yeah. Just
fascinating.
interesting.
That's
That'd be a neat experiment.
Yeah. It's one of the most fascinating questions we can ask. Is what do you take away from this? When they understand what a takeaway is. So that's
No.
why it's key to realize, something we take away that's valuable, useful, beneficial, that we can use and
Just
that
my
we can
pictures.
apply, that's meaningful to us, that has pertinence and relevance, that we're going to use, that's emphasized for us, that we
Yeah.
want to apply. That's the key. It's something that we want to apply, something that's going to to result in in real, actual, lasting change.
Mm.
Or at least so we hope and believe. Then we have to make the effort to maintain it and to continue to apply it. That's a different thing. Deal with the habits of stuff. But that's the intent. This is something I want to use. It's valuable, useful. I need to know it. I need to understand it. Now, sometimes we don't always have to make to work on changing habits. Sometimes you really, really don't need to do
Mm.
more. It's very fun.
Where are you at in the process? If you're really ready to change and desiring to change, you can actually change quicker than you think.
Yeah,
But oftentimes we need a lot more
yeah,
coaxing, and a little more
yeah,
pain
yeah,
to change.
yeah, exactly. Change is peculiar. It's not a constant. Like I say, sometimes you can change instantly, and other times it's a slow business, or there's no change. It's resistance. It all goes to that how we understand at the root, and we don't have any contradictory understandings, any conflicts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
very cool. Very
The
cool.
contradictory things, that kind of fascinates me a little bit because it's a lot of it's in the subconscious
Yeah.
and you're not aware. Well, for me, I'm oftentimes not aware
Mm,
mentally, like spiritually I'm aware, I know what's going on, but like in my mind, I don't feel like I'm as
mm.
aware sometimes with the subconscious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll wonder like, well, why does that keep getting brought up? I don't understand what that means, and you just have to allow itself to unveil. But that's just really
Typically, there's some belief that gets in the way, uh, or a misbelief, as it may be. Either way, usually it's a misbelief of some kind that gets in the way.
mm. So that misbelief is why it's still being held on to in the subconscious, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
So for that misbelief, you just have to allow it surface through circumstances. Is that how you find out your misbelief?
It takes a little bit of digging usually. You have to kind of get inside there, um, and root around and see what's holding me up, what's the blockage, what what are our fears, what are our doubts, what are our reluctances. Sometimes we just want to make an effort, and we're reluctant to accept change because it's
Yeah.
we need to make an effort, and we just don't want to make that effort. So
Mm.
all sorts of reasons why we don't. It's awful truth that this change would mean something simple. One of the most potent reasons for not changing is because for people that the moment they actually change, that's the moment they cannot avoid acknowledging that they had not changed before.
Mm.
As long as you don't change, you can still have some pretense that everything's fine, everything's okay. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, should, I'm okay, I'm doing good, blah blah. Whereas the moment you change, you acknowledge, well, I should have changed, because I'm changing now. So change is a good thing, which means whatever was before wasn't so good. It's foolish logic, but that's what people get stuck in. They feel like change is an acknowledgement of being wrong, and they can't acknowledge
Mm.
it, so they don't change. That's something.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They get stuck. They get stuck. It's dreadful. It's absolutely. I've seen kids that get stuck in this. Oh, I knew that. No, you did not know that. Don't come and try and pretend, yeah, you didn't know it. But they get
Mm.
say they're so afraid of looking ignorant that they keep saying this. Oh, I knew that, and they don't learn as a result because they just don't want to ever acknowledge that they were wrong or they didn't know. So how do you possibly learn if you don't acknowledge that you didn't know? It's not possible.
That's right. Yeah.
They can say
Interesting.
that's all they
Yeah,
like, but they don't. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's a
it really
really
is.
dreadful thing. This fear of being wrong, fear of not knowing, fear of looking silly, fear of being ignorant, blah blah blah. So what, man? We don't know the whole world. We don't know. It's just this arrogance that you do know. The little you do know, the tiny, tiny, tiny little fraction. You now want to pretend this is enough or it's everything. It's absurd. It's absurd. But it's a reality. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it's I have a lot of the belief bubbles, and many of them have popped, but I'm sure I still have, more to go. Like, I know I'm not there yet. I'm still working on things. And until I'm aware of it, when I become aware of something, I'm like, "Oh, that needs to pop," and you work on popping it. But it just, I wouldn't say scary, but it's the what you don't know, like what you're aware of. I'm to the point I'm aware that I'm unaware
That,
of
that's
things.
that's right there. That's right there, Janelle. That is the key and the crucial, crucial, crucial issue. Yeah, that is the key. Being aware that you're unaware. That's all that's needed. Beena and I
Mm,
were really discussing this in depth. Adonna and I,
mm,
that well, and Beena, I guess. That this is the key issue. And that is the whole thing. If you look at the world, the universe, you see people, everything, it's all about this. That you're going on this path and you don't know. You don't know, you're unaware. And until you get to that magical moment where you shift to being aware that you're unaware, that's the
mhm.
key. That's when we really start to learn. Other than that, nothing really matters. And then you almost got to start learning everything again because you got to do it consciously and deliberately. You got to claim it, own it, make it your own. Whatever you learned before then doesn't really mean anything because you didn't do it consciously. You didn't do it deliberately. So you got to go over the key points, especially. And this is what we're doing now. We aren't learning facts and information in way of impeccability. We're not
Mhm.
interested in that because that stuff comes and goes. We want the tools of awareness itself that enable us to learn, right? So we want learning tools.
Right.
We want the understanding of how to build tools, not just to have a toolbox full of tools, right? That you got from somewhere. No, I want to be able to build them myself. And this is what we're doing. We're building tools on how to think and how to formulate and how to figure out and how to understand, how to be aware, etc. How to emphasize stuff like that. And what's necessary to really, really be able to use things like making it your own. And one of these tools we're discussing right now, the takeaway. It is a profoundly valuable tool. Otherwise, stuff just comes at you. You believe you know it, and okay, oh, interesting, okay, okay, and then it goes by, and wow, thank you very much. That was really profound. And I had a revelation and an epiphany and all sorts of magical stuff. And tomorrow, you're still the same. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and that's what we look to avoid, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Very big deal. Very
And I
big.
guess also too, just being patient with yourself and just being okay with
Mm,
where you're at and your learning. You know, I sometimes try to do the math. I'm like, okay, well, if this is where I'm at, I'm gonna have to live till like I'm like 3,000 or something. Like, but you just don't know. Like you can learn at different
yeah.
rates.
There,
You
there,
know.
there you go. There you go. That's a key point you just said there. Learn at different rates. We tend to think our learning is linear and we project into the future from the past. And it's not
Mhm.
accurate because learning is exponential or can be, right? So we tend to be a little bit put off by learning, but it's not linear. It's not the same step by step by step. What we are doing now is leveraging our ability to learn in a quantum exponential way because we are very, very clearly going to see how we are looking at things from that abstract overview perspective. So instead of accumulating data information points, we are accumulating the abstract understanding of something. The individual applications, they don't matter. That you can acquire as needed. So we are learning how to learn quantum exponential change in our ability to learn. We are learning how to be aware, how to understand, how to see, to perceive, be aware of the problem, think it through to the end. All this. It's not data, it's not information, it's learning itself we are paying attention to. So we are through this program, we undergo a quantum exponential leap in our ability to learn and grow. It's really huge because we are going to
Mhm.
see the abstract understanding of things, not the detail. And when you see an example I always use is we learning to drive cars, not learning to drive a Ford or a Chevy or something like that, right?
Mhm.
I mean, when it comes to
Right.
cars, we do this, but in other stuff, it's astonishing how often people learn something specifically. They learn to drive a Chevy and they get in a Ford, they can't drive. This
Hmm.
example actually comes from a real world example. I was at another kid's house when I was young. I was at school when I was a teenager, and something happened. The kid wasn't serious, but I don't know. They had to get taken to the doctor, and so the mother, because the father was away at work, the mother, her car was in the shop, and so she gets into. I guess I don't know. The father must have gotten a lift to work, and she gets into the father's car and she says, "Oh, I can't drive this. This is a Chevy. I drive a Ford." It just blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this is an adult, this is a mother, and you're saying
Wow.
something so absurdly ridiculous. And there we were stuck, where to go, but no, she couldn't drive. Ugh.
Wow. That's
I was just
crazy.
horrified. I was just horrified at the absurdity of this. It just
Yeah.
blew my mind. Anyway, well,
Yeah, it's yeah, you just kind of scratch your head like I don't understand what they're not
right.
getting.
She was quite in a panic.
Wow.
I want to say, figure it out for heaven's sake. What's the difference? Put the thing in gear and all that. It's the same thing. Just adapt a little bit. No, no, no. Stuck, stuck. No,
Mm,
never, never. I don't want to ever be in that situation that you can't see the abstract of things that you can just, adapt accordingly. That's a horrifying eventuality, right? Just a wasteful limitation of
yeah.
being.
Yeah, and it's sad, but I feel like a lot of people are in that situation. They're so stuck in their habits and their ways. Like, you know, something changes at work for them, they kind of have a meltdown, you know, drastically changes, it's whatever. It's
Yeah,
not really living when you're stuck like that,
exactly. And it's so avoidable.
Yeah.
It's just exactly. It's not that they don't know, they're not able to. They just don't think clearly enough. That's it, really. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing for sure. Interesting.
Fascinating. Really, really fascinating to me.
So I guess that brings us to slide number 3. My repeat back is that there are 3 main types of takeaways.
Mm,
The first one is what is meaningful to me and necessary to use. The second one is what comes up inside me while doing the takeaway. And the third one is repeat backs that are necessary to aid with understanding and validation.
mm,
So not only was I unaware of takeaways prior to meeting with you, I had no idea there's different kinds. You know, you just it's
uh,
just you keep understanding more. I mean, now it's obvious, you know,
that's what we do. Make the obvious obvious. Yeah,
but until you really dive in and understand it for what it is, up until that point it really wasn't obvious at all. So,
yeah.
but I wrote for my takeaway on that. I wrote that there's different types of takeaways, and it's important to be aware of the different types because this will then assist me in my learning and my validation of what I apply or of that application.
Mm,
So, for me personally, I really need to make it a daily habit of putting everything in a takeaway. And
mm,
it's funny because I'm just naturally starting to do this. Odd will happen, or maybe something will be very emphasized, or, just a situation. We just naturally look at each other and be like, okay, well, what's our takeaway on this? What are we learning? And it's just very natural. I don't know how we didn't ever do this before, you know?
that's the thing. That's the thing. Like you said, when we become aware that we've been unaware, we realize, wow, why didn't I do this before? That's it. The difference is just awareness, unawareness, right? And something so simple. I want to emphasize this point as much as I possibly can. That's something so simple like the takeaway. It's very simple, really, but it
Mm-hmm.
is incredibly profound. It's a life changing thing. Just because it's simple does not mean it's not profound. And this is a habit that I absolutely will make every effort to share and energize and communicate how unbelievably important it is to be able to see the profound in the simple and to recognize when things are profound, when they're life changing, like the takeaways. And did you do the whole session? Because right at the end it says your task is to do takeaways from everything.
Oh,
Yeah. So you're already doing that, which is great.
yes,
Which is
yes.
great. So this is key though, because just this one concept, this one understanding change your whole life. Right there. Just one thing. Just one thing.
Mm.
It's amazing. It is amazing. It is absolutely fantastically, brilliantly amazing. It's
Yeah, and
really
the
cool.
simple things really is probably what we need to pay closer attention to because there's something in the simple that you can extract, if it's too complex it's hard to really extract something. But if it's simple,
Exactly.
that little piece right there to my,
It is simple and it's life changing because suddenly you are using every moment of your day, or at least most of your day. You are using it valuable. You're using it to learn and grow. And learning and growing, you're in harmony with life, with the universe, with God. Everything is geared around us. So suddenly your life changes. Not only are you making the best use of your time, which is also the best use of your energy, which is being impeccable, but you're actually getting real value out of it. You're not just acquiring useless information. I mean, not all information is useless, of course, but the information changes and updates, and typically the time that you need it, you have to check it anyway. But you're acquiring, real knowledge, real understanding, real abilities, real change within yourself. So you grow, you grow, you grow. Really, really valuable. Really, really valuable. Unbelievable. And we understand how things work with these takeaways. We really get it. We learn discernment. We get that, grow our awareness. We learn to be more patient, more observant, more impeccable. We learn to, fine tune our integrity, be more ethical, be more sensitive, all sorts of magical things. Just to be more capable, in other words, more effective. Fantastic stuff. Yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah. It's really, I mean, it touches every area of life. I'm just kind of soaking it in this morning, just how important it is.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And once we read, that's what I'm so enjoying, that you are soaking in how important it is. Because once you really, your brain, your inner bureaucrats, everything understands exactly how important it is. Then you don't have to remember to do a takeaway. You're going to do it automatically. Yeah.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I guess I'm just fascinated with, when you learn something and you understand it, but you really have to put in a lot more effort to apply it. For a lot of people,
Yeah.
there's a disconnect between that
Yeah.
understanding and the application. And looking back, I see this in my life. Like, yeah, I've understood a lot of things, but that application piece, that final piece of application, I could see where I didn't always utilize that. And it'll get you into trouble when you learn something and you just fail to apply it because you know it and you should be applying it. But sometimes that transition is just, there's a disconnect sometimes. I
Yeah.
feel like for most people, it takes
Yeah.
a lot. It takes a lot more effort to put that last piece of application in. The understanding's fairly easy,
Yeah.
but applying it
Exactly.
is difficult.
Exactly. Or can be. It's not always.
Or it
It
doesn't
gets
have to be. Yeah.
exactly. It gets significantly easier the more we get into the habit of practicing. And when we connect our takeaway to application, then it gets a lot easier. That's the key part. To make our takeaway not only of understanding, but go that extra step to say, okay, I get it now. Now, how do I apply it? Right? That's where
That's
most
right.
people fall down in their learning and growth. Oh, I get it. I understand. And then you can ask them for a repeat back and they can explain it to you exactly. They do understand it, but they haven't taken that extra step in their brain to shift to seeing how do I apply this? How do I actually change my behavior, myself, my mindset, my psychology, my understanding, my beliefs, etc. That they don't do. When we start to do that, it gets so much easier, so much better. So the takeaway is intimately connected to application. Like everything, the entire program is about
Hmm.
application. Without application, it's all meaningless.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just,
Right.
I guess that part just fascinated me.
Excellent.
Because
Good, good. Yes.
I mean, because there's things that I apply naturally. I understand and apply
Yeah.
easy, super easy. I just do it naturally. And then other things, it's like, well, how come I'm not applying this? There's
Yeah.
there's a block there. I don't, I'm trying to figure that part out. I'm like, well, maybe I just don't understand it completely, or I just need more practice. I don't always know why. Or stubbornness could be, could be a number of things.
Right. Again, don't worry about things that aren't working or wrong or problems.
Yeah.
Truly, just don't worry about them at all. The things we are going to be learning and growing and applying, they automatically replace the things that weren't working and take care of them
Well,
automatically.
that's comforting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you didn't know how to ride your tricycle well and you learn how to ride a bicycle, do you need to bother how to ride the tricycle?
Right. No, you don't.
It's not relevant anymore. Yeah. And when you do go back on the tricycle, you're going to ride it quite fine. It's be no problem to ride the tricycle.
Right. Right.
it,
Exactly. Yeah. It'll
it
be
works that way.
easy.
So exactly. When you replace replace it with something that's potent and that is so encompassing and thorough and more, it automatically takes care of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, don't like lack of confidence is a good example. People try to fix their lack of confidence, but just go and learn confidence, and you fix your lack of confidence. That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, feel good about yourself. Know your subject. There's all sorts of ways to deal with to acquire confidence, which automatically takes care of its lack or lack of self doubt. All of those stuff. So it's powerful. It's very powerful psychology. This, all of most, at least not all, but traditional psychology is all about fixing your problems. No,
Mm,
replace them with stuff that really works, and not with specific remedies either, because that's band aid. Replace them with
mm,
this core understanding, something like the takeaway. That's why it's called the takeaway philosophy or the philosophy of takeaway. It's a philosophy. It's a way of living. And this is a huge deal. It's so simple, but and so many things get automatically remedied just by doing this. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
yeah, it is. It reminds me of a Bible verse. It tells us to
Cool,
renew
cool,
our
cool.
our minds. Because that's don't try to
Yeah.
fix a problem. Like, let's say, well, for example, like a relationship. You know, if you're having problems in one relationship, you bounce to another. Well, you're
Mm,
gonna have the same issues or similar issues. You know what I
exactly.
mean? It's not greener on the other
Exactly.
side. But
Exactly. Exactly.
we're supposed to renew our minds, which is you know don't try to fix the problem, but really see it for what it is. You're going to have
Fix
to,
yourself.
yeah, exactly. You're going to have to make some changes and then it'll
Right.
automatically get fixed.
Right.
So,
Right. And again, you don't need to fix because here's the problem. You can fix a problem, but if it's like if you have a math equation and you've got a negative, you can remove that negative. But really,
mhm.
what you usually end up with is just zero.
Mm,
That's all you're taking care of. You don't end up
right,
with a positive. So if you end
right.
up with, if let's say you go -2 and you add 4 to that and you have now +2, well, you've taken care of the minus and you have a plus to boot. So you
Mm,
implement positive change, new ways of being that work, that are useful. That, like I said, it almost always tends to take care of the problem also. And you end
mm,
up with having something to replace. But also psychologically, if you literally help somebody to fix their problem, okay, they learn not to be angry anymore. It doesn't make them kind and courteous and considerate and thoughtful and so on. See? So it doesn't help because what so often happens is that they end up in a bit of a vacuum psychologically. They find, well, I've fixed my problem, but now what do I do? How do I be? You can't be a vacuum. You can't be a nothing. So they go back to the previous behavior because they don't have a replacement. It's very sad
mm.
because they're
Yeah,
comfortable with the
it's
old stuff. It's at least something you know. It's better than nothing, right?
right.
Yeah. So it's important with your kids. That's why I'm kind of going on about the subject here, is that when they resolve a problem, make sure that they have the new replacement behavior. Without that, they're just going to struggle. They may see the solution to the problem, but they won't know how to act instead of the way they used to act.
Mm.
Need a
Yeah, you're
replacement.
right. Yeah.
Very,
Replace
very, very, very
with.
important.
Yeah, if you just take something away, there's going to be a void or a hole there.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And we are very uncomfortable with voids and vacuums and holes. It makes us very, very uncomfortable. We rather have that known and negative than have the void. The void is even worse.
Mm-hmm. It
That's why
is.
you see people stay in abusive relationships, for instance.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. So the key point here is takeaways are really profound, particularly because for you, a takeaway means taking away something that is beneficial, valuable, and useful that you are going to apply. Yes,
Yes.
that's it. It's part of your understanding of the takeaway. This is, oh, what can I take away from this that I can apply? That's how I think of it. Not that I can learn, that I can apply. So I just go direct there. Yes, I'm going to learn, I'm going to
Mm.
understand, I'm going to get discernment, insight, all this stuff, but I'm going to apply it in some way.
Right. That application is the key component for sure. Hmm. So, slide 4, my repeat back is extraction is the main takeaway. And I said this before, but I'm emphasizing it again. Without application, it's meaningless. Application adds to me and is profoundly significant. So, a takeaway on that, there is no point of learning if you do not administer application, kind of what we've been talking about. Application is everything. It is crucial to implement application in our daily habits. Learning how to apply application is what we need to know. We are so unaware, most of us don't even know how to apply what we learn into our daily lives and habits. So,
Yeah.
learning how to apply application is what stuck out for me because you see where
Yeah.
you're at and you see what you need to
Yeah.
apply, but it's like, well, I don't know. I don't even know how to
Yeah.
apply application. Like, where do I even start with this?
Yes. Yes. But don't worry about it. We're gonna get there. So yeah. 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 Absolutely. Very cool point. Very, 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 very cool
It's
point.
like that
Very.
transition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're, if you're going to make a speech or something, well, your transitions are very key, otherwise it's
Yes.
going to be very awkward for you and the audience. So that transition of learning to application, it's easy to drop the ball in that area,
Exactly.
at least for me. Because
Yeah.
maybe you don't have a good example, or you understand it to a certain point, maybe the understanding's kind of shallow still, because really, unless it's a part of you, you fully don't understand it. So unless you're applying it, you really don't completely understand it. So switching over from head knowledge to application knowledge, you know what I mean? For me, that's the hardest part, because you need that experience to really understand it. And yet you're trying to implement that experience. Yeah, paradox.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end result is just do, and you soon discover the resolutions. Yeah.
And I guess that's why we just practice, because you can't really expect to get it correct the first time. You're going to have to, like a transition, that's kind of a learning period. It's kind of that awkward phase that you keep trying to smooth over, and
Yes.
you'll get there through practice.
Exactly. Capital P, practice. Add that to your dictionary of power. That's a potent, potent thing. To be comfortable with practice, to understand practice, to enjoy practice, to want practice. Practice is power. Very magical thing. Practice. So let's get into practice a little bit. Most of the time, people don't ever get to practice because they are so afraid of looking foolish or uncomfortable or it's going to be difficult or whatever. They believe stuff which isn't really true. The moment you actually do the doing of practice and you say, I'm practicing, which means I don't exactly know what I'm doing. I don't exactly have it right, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it essentially, wrong in some way. And you do this deliberately. And now you start
Mhm.
doing it and you say, okay, all right, I get it. And usually, almost always, what happens is, wow, it's not as bad as I thought it was. And then the next thing is,
Mm.
oh, it's actually very easy. And the next thing you've learned it. But it's that first application, the first one or two times you do the thing, it feels a bit awkward, uncomfortable, whatever. But then quickly you say, oh, it's not as bad. It's just the idea that keeps us from it. And do that enough times. And afterwards you say, I'm happy to learn anything because I already know that it's never a problem. So I don't have that initial feeling awkward and bad and embarrassed and whatever. You can overcome that
Mm.
through through doing it regularly. And now you really learn that, well, to learn new things is not a problem. At first you don't know, but okay, I fiddle around, I experiment, I expand, I figure it out on the spot. And okay, next thing you do it. That's it. The doing is the learning. It's all
Mm.
wrapped up together.
Yeah, a lot of times we have this in our mind that if we don't get it right in practice, we're doing it wrong. But really, I mean, that's what practice is for, is to experiment
Mm.
and learn. You know,
Exactly. 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 Exactly.
I know
Exactly.
Pierce, he's a lot like me, so I must be like this, but I expect to have it correct or pretty close to correct, my
Mm.
first couple tries. And I know,
Right.
like, with school,
Right.
he'll get frustrated easily if he
Yeah.
doesn't pick it up immediately. And he's pretty
Yeah.
smart, so most stuff he does pick up pretty quick. But if it's
Right.
something new, I see their frustration is starting to rise, and I have to remind him, like, well, what are we doing here? I mean, how are you supposed to know this? Have you done this before? Well, no. Okay, so why are we even doing this? If you knew it, we wouldn't even have to go over this.
Exactly. And ask him, how much is it that you're not learning because of your fear of feeling foolish? And if you're going to keep that fear of feeling foolish, how much are you not ever going to learn because of it?
Hmm.
And what a crime and a waste that is. So, the key point to learn is not to be bothered by feeling foolish when you don't know. That's it. If you don't care, you can learn anything. You can persist until you do learn. Shift it. Instead of feeling foolish, say, I'm stubbornly determined to learn. And if I don't learn, then I'm foolish. So now
Hmm.
you have to learn because if you don't learn, then you're foolish. Much simpler way of doing things. If you're not going to feel foolish about stuff, feel foolish about not learning. Use the foolishness rather than let the foolishness use you.
Hmm.
Perspective
That's good.
shifting, leverage, right? To name the apps
Right.
there. Perspective shifting, leverage. It's huge, 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 huge change. I've literally instructed people the same thing in I don't know, probably about 10,000 people, something like that. Like loads of people, in other words. And this was
Yeah.
how to open a knife just with a flick of the wrist when we had the knife store. And people would come in and they keen, oh, and I would open the knife and I'd say, yeah, because they, oh, let me see that knife. And I would, open it. Wow, that's really cool. Can you show me to do that? Yeah, and they'd seen others do this, but there's a trick to it, right?
Hmm.
And so they were excited to learn. And I said, okay, I explain exactly how to do it because it looks like you're going from in to out, but actually you're coming in first and then out on the rebound. So you have to literally do the opposite with your hand than what you think you have to do. And if you do that, you
Hmm.
have to change your conception, in other words. But if you do that, then it's easy. So I explained to them, and inevitably they do what they had thought before. They've seen other people doing what visually appears to be the thing, and they do that. And most of the time they would do it once, just once, and no, I can't do it. And, they try it and it doesn't work, and they give it back to me. But I nope, sorry, not gonna happen. I said, no, 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 no. I've taught thousands, hundreds of people, dozens of people, whatever it was at the time. I said, I've shown plenty of people how to do this. Yeah, you just have to give it a couple of times, and it would be all awkward. I'd push a little bit because I know if they learn it, they're buying the knife. And every single time I just got them to overcome that stupidity, and I said, just think of it this way, do it this way, do it. So I was always practicing, learning, and implementing different mechanisms of communication instruction. But a couple tries later, they got it, and then they're all happy, and they're so joyful. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they would really thank me profoundly for learning to do
Mm,
this. They felt like the coolest person in the world. Now I can go show all their
wow.
friends who they knew also struggled with it, but now they can go show. But it's amazing. It just they had to persist in literally to do it another 3 or 4 more times, and they could do it. It's astonishing. Don't give up. Don't get up. That makes you foolish. When you give up, that's when you're being a fool. Because that's what all I saw. Oh no, I can't do it. I know you can do it. Like I said, I have ample proof that anybody can do it. So can't tell me no, you can't do it. I know you can do it.
Right.
So like I said, I bully them just a little bit, but they were happy because, like I said, they all ended up doing it and ended up buying a knife too. So it's amazing, though. It just
It is
absolutely
amazing.
intrigued me, the fascinating of this mindset thing. But there's a moreness to it too. They had to literally shift their conception. What they believed, which was based on a visual perception, just an obviousness, they didn't see the subtlety involved. And they couldn't do it because of that. But shift the conception, do something actually different. They had to literally shift it from one direction to the other, and then they could do. It's just amazing to me. Change the conception, you change the learning. Very, very, very powerful. This is
Mm,
with golf too. This is the problem with most golfers. What they think they are doing and what they actually need to do, two different things. Like you would say, the obvious thing, if you watch somebody hitting a golf ball, you'll think they're hitting it up into the air, right?
mm-hmm.
That seems obvious and logical when you see somebody, but that's not what you do with a golf ball. Your club, when you hit a golf ball in the right way, your club is literally traveling downward at the moment that it strikes the ball
Mm, wow.
and puts backspin on the ball. The backspin creates an aerodynamic effect, which makes the ball rise up into the air. Yeah, isn't that something else? And then, of course, the angle
Wow.
of the club makes it go. Yeah. So you have to change your brain because if you to literally try to hit the ball upwards, that means you'll have to get in underneath the earth behind the ball, right, in order to hit up at the ball if it's sitting on the earth. You can't do that. It's not possible, right?
Mm, that's right.
But yet people try. Yet they try. They try over and over and they keep hitting into the ground and miss hitting it and doing all sorts of weird stuff. But if you just shift that dimension and say, okay, you hit the ball first, then the ground second, then you get that backspin, then you get the whole, it's a whole magical way of doing things. But it's a shift of conception. So I'm just using this as an example, but we want to understand that we need to understand, we need to conceive of the change of behavior. You were saying about implementation, right? We're talking about application now.
Right.
Understand the conception of what's going on. Really think about it. Change your conception, then the behavior changes along with it. Really understand what it is you need to do, then you can change your conception and your belief as to what you actually need to do. And same like the knife and the golf, it changes, and you're able to then apply really easily and quickly by really understanding what you need to do. Reconceive, in other words. So we are shifting our conceptions here about learning itself.
Mm.
Very, very, very cool. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah, you're almost like learning how to think again,
Yeah.
thinking the correct way because like you said, we're all like going through school and just our, the belief bubbles that we grew up forming, you were it's just a whole new way of training our brain to, I guess I wouldn't say react, but just how to respond to things and
Respond. Yes.
think
Deliberate.
about things.
Deliberate.
What'd you say? Deliberate.
Yes. A response is deliberate. A reaction, not necessarily so, or generally. So, yeah, we want to learn to react deliberately, which is to respond. Yeah.
Yes. respond.
That deliberation is important.
And that's hard to do. I know that for me, I'm practicing my responses to things, and it's really hard to change that habit.
Yes.
It's really tough because you have to, there's an opportunity that comes up, and usually it comes up when you're in the middle of something. You're not, usually when you're thinking about it, there's not really an opportunity. It's when you're not thinking about it.
Exactly.
So you have to, do that power pause and stop, and then, but it's triggering your emotions. So you have to learn. And as a woman, my emotions are very strong. They're very strong. I know men too, but I feel like mine are just, as a woman, like it's harder for me to control my emotions. Just takes a lot of practice. And I can feel like my brain trying to switch over to what I'm used to doing. And then my higher self fighting, like, no, let's try something new. Just like, it's just the war in your brain. It's just the battle in there. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of going a little crazy trying to change habits because you feel like that pressure to remain the same versus to change. It's pretty profound when you're aware of everything going on. You're like, wow, this might be why people go cuckoo.
Yeah. But just that the conception. If you think of when you were saying responding emotionally, do you believe that you need to?
No, I don't. Not anymore. Before
No.
I did, but
Exactly.
not anymore.
Exactly. So
And some things are
change the
really
belief, change the behavior, and the
change.
feeling.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. That's good. And some things are easy to change, but specific habits that have been ingrained in you since childhood, some of them really are difficult to change. Like, I'm dealing with well, last week I shared, my relationship with my father. I'm noticing that his take on things and his view and the way he likes to manipulate and do things, it really affected me. And when there's just a lot of hidden beliefs still, because in when I view things, I don't think that way anymore. But yet in my actions, I'm finding out, like, well, why am I still doing this? So, I know there's still something, and this is kind of why I brought up subconscious earlier. There's still things going on in the subconscious that I'm aware of them, but not fully yet. I'm still learning, and I'm seeing them play out through my actions, or maybe something I said. I'm like, oh, maybe that's not really how I feel. I don't really even know why I said that. I don't feel that way anymore.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Because you change the beliefs, you change the feeling. But I just finished making a little course, and we'll do it at some point on the relationship between feeling and belief, and how they support and reinforce each other, and what we can do to leverage this understanding. Very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Mm.
Very powerful. So in this, like you said, abandonment issues and stuff like this, your issue with your father, what would you replace that with?
Hmm. Well, I guess just knowing that I really never was abandoned. You know, I was always taken care of. God always brought in the right people and the right friendships, that I needed.
And Yeah. What about replacing it with something like peace of being or independence of being? Does it matter then if you
Oh,
abandon or not?
well, when you put it that way, no.
Yeah.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, they see. All I did was just make the obvious obvious. Isn't that really obvious once you become aware of it? Wow.
Yes.
What do I care about abandonment if I'm at peace with myself? If I have independence of being, if I feel confident and competent, if I'm able to do for myself, if I find joy in the world, if I'm truly connected to God, what do I care if somebody abandons me? That's their loss, not mine. Yeah,
Right. And looking at it from a different shifting point, what was already there was just coming to light.
exactly.
It was
Yeah,
already a strained relationship. Why would you
exactly,
want that
exactly,
type of relationship?
exactly, exactly. It's not your father's behavior that's the problem. It's the way in which you interpret it. And I'm using that word very deliberately. Not how you reacted or respond, but how you interpreted it. As we learn to perspective shift, there's 100 different ways you can look at your father's behavior. Maybe God made your father behave that way. How do we know? Because you
Mm-hmm.
learned something. We don't know. It could be any possible reason. The issue is how I choose to interpret it. It's a choice. Yeah,
Yes.
something.
Yeah, it's a good reminder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's something. It is something special. Really, when we look at this and we see, the world doesn't work the way we think it does. I can't emphasize that enough. The world does not work the way we think it does. So we
Mm.
need to understand this and say, oh, there's other ways that things can work, other ways that they can be. We can see things in different ways. The way we've always thought it worked, the way we saw it, the way we understood, the way we interpreted, no, not necessarily. Right?
That's right.
It's pretty exciting.
So we're really the ones that put the block there.
Exactly.
We think we project when there's
Exactly.
an issue, we project it out. But really, it's just us not seeing things clearly. We're
Exactly.
not allowing ourselves to
Exactly.
see the whole
Exactly.
picture.
Exactly. Exactly. We're not making the effort to look at it from enough angles.
Mm.
And we are not choosing our choice of how we choose to react. Even more exciting. It's a choice. It's a choice. There's no have to. That's the biggest myth that we've been taught. You should do this. You should do that. When we learn to see should as the real evil in the world, that's when everything
Mm.
changes. That's when everything changes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's really what I've known my whole life is I just did things because I should. That was kind of the principle I live by. Well, you do this because you're supposed
Exactly.
to.
Exactly. 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 And this is terrible. I mean, if you really look back at your life and you see how much you were corrupted by should, it's quite horrifying, isn't it?
It really is. It's terrible.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite horrifying, also. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, pay attention when you use the word should with your kids.
Yeah, I will. I
It's a
don't
big
want
deal.
them.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, I want to change things moving forward. I don't want them to be programmed in the way I was. I really make an
Yeah,
effort to
exactly,
be different.
exactly, 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 exactly. Teach them how to choose deliberately, consciously. In other words, it's exactly what we're going to be doing with way of impeccability.
Mm.
These are all tools for choice. Look at the takeaway. Way of impeccable is not saying, oh, Janelle, you must take away this, you must take away that. It's not saying what you must take away. It's saying, take it away. What are you taking away again? What is the definition here of the takeaway?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you for
Oh,
emphasis.
oh. Where did I write it down?
Well, just go off the top of your head.
Oh, just basically what I've extracted from the experiences that I have gone through, just making it my own.
Right. That what is it exactly in a more abstract way? What are you extracting? What's important to you,
Basic,
right?
yeah, what's important to me. Thank you.
What's valuable to you, what's beneficial to you, and what you're going to apply. Now let's read that sentence again. What you find valuable, what you find important, what you find useful, what you are going to apply. See? I'm just saying,
Mm,
compared to should. Should tells you this is what is important to you. Oh, thank you. I didn't get to choose. So, but wave impeccability is providing you with the tools which you determine. The takeaway is very subtle. It's not saying, Janelle, believe this, Janelle, believe that, right? It is saying,
right,
take out what you, Janelle, find important, not what wave impeccability or anybody else says. I know what's important to you.
right.
I can maybe guess in that, but it's a presumption. It's an arrogance for me to try and guess what's important to you, right?
That's right.
So this is a tool that you get to use. You get to decide. That's the thing. The more, and it's an awareness generating tool, right? The more you are paying attention, you, just in that one thing, when you make a takeaway, by implication, you are determining what is important. You're determining what matters. Oh, I never really thought about what. Oh, well, okay. Now that I think about it, I see it. Awareness. Awareness is generated right there in the act of performing a takeaway, of making a takeaway. You are determining what's important to you, what's valuable to you, and you are setting an intent at the same time to apply it, right? So it's a
Mm,
whole bunch of stuff that goes on. How freaking awesome is that?
yeah, it's pretty cool.
So all right. We'll go through this. I'll come back to this at the end. Yeah, I'll come back to this at the end. I love this. I love this. Very, very powerful. I love how you are grabbing onto the takeaway as something profoundly, profoundly, profoundly important. Love that. Love that.
Well, it is. It's been emphasized so much. I really want to. I really want to apply
Yeah.
everything I'm learning. Honestly,
Yes. 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 And that gives me great, great joy.
that's
That's your
probably
magic.
why I'm doing
That's your
this,
magic.
because this is what I wanted.
Exactly. 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 And there is a profound takeaway. What you just said.
Hmm. Oh, I should write that down.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a massively huge takeaway. Big deal. Big deal. Once we know what is important to us, what's meaningful to us, it motivates us. When we're motivated, we learn, we grow, we change, we apply.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna remember that. There we go.
Yeah, yeah. And then uh, and then you take that just one little step further. Pay attention to what motivates your children, what's important to them, what's meaningful to them. And if it isn't, find a way to make it meaningful and important to them. Like we were saying
Mm,
about learning and foolishness, right? The kid doesn't want to feel foolish, so it's like, but I don't want to look foolish. But you're going to look even more foolish if you don't learn this. Then what? Oh, just flip it around
mm.
with a leverage, right? With a strategy. So strategy is really powerful to us. And I'm assuming strategy is already in your dictionary of power.
Strategy. Yeah.
It's amazing. Bit of perspective shifting, bit of strategy, bit of re-emphasizing, and suddenly you turn a disadvantage into an advantage. The kid didn't want to learn because they were going to feel foolish. Well, now they have to learn, or they will definitely be proven to be foolish.
Right.
Yeah. You can even turn that little later deeper when they get a bit more. Use it in the meantime, maybe a bit, but later you can say, look, foolishness makes you vulnerable. If somebody knows you're afraid of being foolish, it's easy for them to manipulate you.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So how foolish is it to be vulnerable? Go one step further.
So foolishness makes you vulnerable.
Exactly. And it makes you easy to manipulate. Makes you predictable too.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. That's the magic of what we're doing. So one of our absolute most ridiculous power tools is perspective shifting. Right there, we just perspective shifted on foolishness, and suddenly the whole thing changed. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Perspective shifting is power. It's like takeaway. It's a power tool, an absolute power tool. One of our real core essential power tools. Big deal. Very, very, very big deal.
Yeah. Let's see here. So I guess that brings us to slide number 6. I think that's where I stopped. Was I on slide number 5? 5 and 6 kind of go together.
Yeah.
So what I wrote down, I think I was actually on 5, the meaningful takeaway. Is deceptive and very forgetful. I can remember emphasizes.
Really, you didn't read.
I really didn't, I guess.
You can figure it out. You had the abstract. You knew you were on. There you go.
But I hear you say this when I think about it. You always remind us, get in the habit of writing everything down. And it's funny, earlier in the week or last week, Brian and I were having a discussion. We're just talking and it started getting a little deeper. And, it was going somewhere really good. And, he just stopped. He said, should we be writing this down? So we'll do like a voice record. So it's just a good habit. We're both learning to, write it down, because when you say something very profound, you want to remember it, because there's a reason you're saying it. So, and then another thing that I wrote down here with that slide is use leverage to emphasize application. So I guess for me, I'm learning about leverage. It's, again, one of those foreign concepts to me. Just like the takeaway, I didn't even know people did that prior to the way of impeccability. I didn't even know that was.
I don't know if people do it, in general, but it's certainly a way of impeccability participants. Yes.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and it's just a
something.
way of training my brain, like how to think. But leverage is also one of those, emphasis and leverage. But I'd say I'm learning how to use leverage, and I'm practicing, and I still have a ways to go, but I'm aware of it, or becoming aware of it, I'll say.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Emphasis. It's another one of our key power terms. We want to understand emphasis and its magic. Emphasis is unbelievably potent, and I cannot emphasize emphasis enough. Emphasis is what literally trains the brain. So the takeaway is emphasis. The taking the notes is emphasis. The repeat backs, emphasis. The takeaways, emphasis. The understanding and the, the discussion, emphasis. What do you do in your dictionary of power? You concentrate all of that emphasis into that power conception that you can use in your language, because it's fluid, it's automatic. And again, whenever you use it in your language, it is a subconscious automatic emphasis. And you get to apply it because, well, you're honest, you're not going to use words that you don't believe in, that you don't want to use, because then you'd be a phony and a liar. So again, emphasis and strategic leverage. We are leveraging your honesty through your language to actually apply what you've done. So there's this whole process and procedure that all goes together, right? It works like
Mm-hmm.
magic. You don't have to sit and memorize stuff to learn it and all that. Sometimes you have to make that effort, a little bit of overbending to change a habit, but we are going to use this automatically through all of those processes. Emphasis, 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 emphasis. Then you build it in, you get the full understanding of it. When you get that understanding, we filled up that pyramid of knowledge, and the dictionary of power term is the capstone right on top of it, right? You need
That's
to
right.
remember that. In other words, now, when you started the session and you said, "Oh, the philosophy of takeaway," oh, takeaway, that's kind of interesting. But now, takeaway means a whole lot more to you than it did when you first saw that term, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But you don't need to remember all the discussion that we've gone through. You just need to remember the concept of takeaway. That's it. One thing, and you
Mm-hmm.
can't hardly forget it, right? Once you know it and once
Right.
it's a part of you, it's just automatic. You can't really forget it. So, but you
Right.
now get everything else that we discussed and all your understanding, because you've made that deliberate effort to figure it out, think it through, go over it. Now it's yours. So that the body of the pyramid, all that moreness inside there, it automatically comes with the term. Every time you use it, automatically comes with, because you understand exactly what's involved. Yes,
That's right. Yeah.
isn't that cool? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So make sure your kids understand, not remember. If they understand, they won't need to remember. It will be automatic.
Mm, that's right.
There are some things that are, like your multiplication tables, that you just want, and your ABC. There are some things that you are necessary to remember or very helpful to remember. But there you go. Not everything.
Yeah.
Not everything. Some things get automatically remembered. Very cool. Very, very, very cool.
Mm, yeah, it really is. Let's see. I think this is the last slide that I got to. Yeah, so the last slide here is slide number 6. And this kind of what we talked about, but it's just showing more emphasis. Do not believe you will remember things. Write it down, which is what we've been talking about. And then just because you get it does not mean that you know it. Make everything your own, internalize it, and demonstrate it. This is the building blocks of takeaways. Finding out and discovering what we want to make our own specifically. So
Yeah,
again, just emphasizing the takeaway, and I guess what stuck out for me is just because you get it, you can get something, so
exactly.
what I
Exactly
wrote
what you
down
mean.
is a takeaway on that is getting it means that it clicks with your brain, but knowing it
Yes,
means you understand it so well. It is now a part of your experience and you can share it with your name stamped on it.
exactly. It's yours,
Yeah.
right? This is
Yes.
this is part of the takeaway. You take away that which is useful to you, and because it's your choice, your decision, what's useful to you, what's meaningful to you, all those yous are emphasized. It is now yours. That knowledge, that understanding, the concept, it's yours. And what's ours, we don't really need to remember. It's ours.
Mm-hmm.
and it's valuable and useful. We use what is ours. It's really amazing. It's really cool. We don't. It's hard to live somebody else's life. It's kind of impossible, really. So you have to make it your own to use. And you saw this in the church, right? People were
Yeah.
being obedient and following what they were supposed to do. It was never really their own, and they struggle. Either they are miserably unhappy, or they have to stop like you, and they have to do something else. They have to get out of that. You can't keep doing what people are telling you should, you should. You can't live somebody else's life. You can't live their beliefs. You can't live their ideology. You can't live their understandings. You can't, right? No matter how hard you tried, you couldn't. I mean, you were a very obedient person once upon a time and did everything you were supposed to do, right?
Oh yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yes.
And it didn't work. It was horrible
Yeah.
because you weren't real. You weren't living your life. You were living somebody else's life. It just goes against the very fabric of reality. This is where, okay, when we get back to the gift of doubt, where the gift of doubt comes in. The whole concept underneath that is that you have to learn for yourself, by yourself. You have to choose. You have to decide what is valuable for you, what is right for you. Nobody can tell you. Isn't that
Mm.
amazing?
Yeah, it really
They
is.
can they
There's
can give
so
you
many layers.
suggestions, maybe. They can give you options and suggestions, but in the end, you have to decide, and you have to decide consciously, deliberately, freely. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's growing up where people tell you what to believe and what to think and how to act.
Mm,
For me, I wanted to experience that for some reason, probably so I could see how important it is to not do that. But,
oh, oh,
I found myself living in this like shell and being very fake. I really didn't know how to I really didn't know how to act growing up because I knew what my parents and the church wanted me to do and how to act, but it felt so rigid and strange to me that I
mm,
almost lived like it was like I was living a double life. I went to a
mm.
really strict college, and they try to get you in trouble for everything.
Yeah,
It just blew my mind away. Like they just enjoyed writing people up, getting people
yeah,
in trouble. They really enjoyed it,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
very demented if you if you
Yeah.
think
Oh, it's
about
all
it.
about hierarchy. It's all about
Yeah,
hierarchy and dominance.
yeah. And well, one of my close friends that I met at college after we both transferred schools and graduated, but she'd tell me, she had such nightmares of, she's like, oh, I had a nightmare. I was still at that place and I was trying to get out. It was just terrible. It really like
Yeah.
it put it really you feel trapped there. And I guess for me, what I'm learning is how to be me again, because
Mm,
growing up I was really never completely me.
exactly. 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 And please, please, please be fully, acutely aware and know thoroughly and completely that way of impeccability is not in any way trying to tell you how to be. It's it's trying to provide you tools with which you choose how to be.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
No,
And
no,
it's
no, no. Yeah, very important.
I feel like I've never really had a choice because I was always told, it's what the Bible says. So you just have to do that and don't ask questions because now you're questioning God, which is, a big problem in the
In
church.
the church,
In the
right, right,
church, exactly.
exactly. And they don't think about it. I mean, seriously, it's like the number one thing to do is to learn to question God. Probably make God the happiest because you're deliberately choosing. It's like, yes, yes. Yeah, I think we need a
Yeah.
nice God eye to say, there we go. Gotta look back at God. Be aware, be aware, be aware. Being a robot, I very seriously doubt that this is what God wants. He would have just made us all robots
Right.
in this
Well, he
place.
wouldn't have given us free will if that's what he
Exactly,
wanted.
exactly,
Why would he give you free will if
exactly,
you can't question?
exactly. It is the use of free will absolutely determines whether you are actually good or not. If you do things just because you're obedient, it doesn't make you good. It just makes you obedient,
Right.
right?
That's
You won't
right.
get
Yeah.
this.
So I feel
One
like
thing
I'm
that's,
kind of,
oh, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add to it. I feel like I'm in this awkward stage of learning to choose and breaking out of, I mean, it's been years since I've been out of the house. I'm married with kids, but it's been so many years and I'm just now breaking out of my shell that I've been trapped in and learning, I'm just like I was saying, I'm in this awkward stage of learning. It's very awkward. It's really uncomfortable, but it's worth it,
But
you
but
know.
it's not just. It's maybe a bit uncomfortable now, but pretty soon it's going to be fun and joy.
Yes, I'm not quite at the fun part, but I'm getting a lot closer.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Um, and that's why I'm just so happy to do this with you, Janelle. You have so
Well, thank
much.
you.
There's so much in you, really. There's so much magic, so much awesome, so much potency. It's a joy. It's really a joy and a thrill to do this. It's really fun. It's inspiring, and for me, I learn so much too every single time. It's really cool. Really,
Oh,
really
well,
cool.
that's good.
Joy.
Yeah, I always
Oh,
learn a lot.
yeah, yeah. We grow together. Something that always intrigued me. In the first, I lived in three different places as a kid. A very tiny little town, a middle town, and then the big city. Went from one extreme to the other. The last 2 years I went to like Beverly Hills 90210, the equivalent of this.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the town I was in was basically they didn't have the uniforms, but for the rest they were armies.
Mm,
That same
yeah.
mindset, very, very conservative, super religious.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, something that I noticed because I really understood as a kid that seen and be heard. But if you could actually not to be seen and not to be heard by not being heard. If you didn't say a word, then the adults would just kind of you didn't exist, and they
Yeah.
never once in their minds considered that you could actually be listening and understanding what they're talking about. Never occurred to them.
Mm.
So I
Yes.
would be invisible, just hanging about, and I would hear them talking. And my father was a doctor, and I'd go with him on house calls sometimes to open the gates because he'd go out into the country. It was a very remote little town, middle of nowhere. Anyway, so while he's taking care of the patient, I'm just hanging around and you're listening to people talking. And of course, the patients typically, if we're coming out that far, if he's been called out, it's a serious business. Because the person can come in, it's more expensive to have him come out, obviously. So typically, the person's somewhat close to death, so they're always talking about serious stuff. And of course, very intensely religious community, they would talk about this. And so I would hear their private views on religion,
Mm,
always different. Everybody had some different perspective on it.
mm,
They never ever believe the same thing when you really, really get into it. And then later on, as a teenager, I would ask people, "Well, what is God to you? What do you think God is?" They never ever discussed it with anybody. Literally, never, not once. And they just assumed that their interpretation was the same as everybody else. They never ever checked. And they were always different. Everybody had a different understanding in some way, especially if they would say the sort of stock phrases, in first, and then and what else, and how do you, and you just keep going with them getting to their personal understanding. It's different every time. Everybody had their own individual understanding, and the same thing with scripture. It's always different. It's always an interpretation on top of it. Nobody
mm-hmm.
ever checks. They just assume it's the same. I'm assuming you've also found this, right? That when you
Oh,
really start to
yes.
scratch it, it's always different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's
There's
this
so
great
many.
myth,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, there's just, I forget how many, but I mean, just a crazy, crazy amount of denominations within the
Exactly,
Christian
exactly,
circle. It just,
exactly,
you can't
exactly,
even fathom
exactly,
there's that many.
exactly. And all of those every time it's somebody is saying, "Oh, my version is the right version, and it's better than yours or whatever. It's different. But again, we accept those. We accept the denominations. Even not in the old days where it's Protestant versus Catholic or Lutheran versus Calvin. People forget that it wasn't just the Catholics and the Protestants that fought each other. The different, Calvinists and Lutherans fought each other, and whatever. It's astonishing. And even within the Catholic Church, they had rivalries between Jesuits and Franciscans or whatever. It's amazing. It's idiotic. but
Yeah.
but so what? If you get down to it, you can't avoid interpretation. Everybody's different. So it's a myth. It's this big myth that we believe the same stuff. Big, 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 big myth. And when you
Mm.
abstract it all, when we take the abstract concept of God, what's the difference between the abstract concept of God or Buddha or Allah or Krishna or Brahma or whatever? It doesn't matter. It's all the same in the abstract. That's
Mm.
really what fascinates me even more.
Yeah, it is very fascinating.
Yeah. It's cool to know, though. It's cool to know, and it's really, really cool to know, and useful to understand that it is our interpretation that counts. Me, mine, and mine alone. That matters to me. Yours is yours, and I celebrate your choice. Ayay, yippee. But it's of no consequence to me. Mine is important to me. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm. That's
No
right.
matter. No matter. You have to choose your choices. I can't force your choices on you, right? So as much as I want you to respect my freedom to choose, of course, I have to respect your freedom to choose for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a parent, I understand my parents were very ingrained in the church, and they wanted me to believe what they believed, but as a
Mm,
parent, that's probably one of the hardest things as a parent is just allowing
yeah.
your child to choose for themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And so the thing that you can do is to provide them with tools of choice.
Mm, yes.
Takeaway is a tool of choice. Perspective shifting is a profound tool of
Yeah, that's good.
it's you and understanding and celebrating difference. What a magical thing that is. Somebody asked me a little while back. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned this already. They said, if I could just recommend something, just one thing to the world that would make a difference. Not that I,
Mm-hmm.
matter, but well, I don't know. It was an interesting question, and I said, celebrate difference,
Mm.
not accept difference, not tolerate difference. Celebrate difference. Shifts your perspective. Shifts your perspective.
Mm. Yeah, and the sad part is we're taught to condone difference.
To
We're
condemn.
programmed to be scared and fearful and
Right,
run from the difference, but really
right, right, right. Condemn, not condone difference. Right. That's what you meant. Yeah.
condemn. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
condemn.
yeah. So
Thank
checking.
you.
It would be good if we are taught to condone difference.
Thank you. Yeah, my brain's
Yeah,
kind
no
of
problem.
getting maxed out
No,
here,
no
so I'm
problem.
getting a
No
little cloudy
problem.
up there.
That's good. It's good to
Thank
practice
you.
my capital H hearing and hear the differences.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, that's there. Well, it's funny, teaching English, it's amazing just one little letter or emphasis on
Yeah,
a vowel. It's just
yeah,
it's really I see why people have such a hard time learning English that,
yeah,
are foreign to it. Um
yeah,
it's just yeah,
yeah, yeah.
one
It's
little
magical.
syllable change and it completely changes the whole entire meaning of the word.
And when you look into a little bit deeper into words, and you understand them, it helps. To condemn is literally to send to hell.
Mm, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Them, it's the same damnation, it's the same root. So to condemn means to literally, that's why it's spelled with that MN, like the word damn, like damnation.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
MN. That's why it's spelled that way. Yeah, yeah. So you're
Wow.
sending something to hell. So yeah. So when you're condemning difference, just think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's punishing.
Yeah.
I mean, from the psychology of people who condemn a difference, and uh, dude, you human beings, you're put on here. Everybody's made by God. You are now sending God's creations to hell. It's like you're going directly against God if you are condemning difference. You think of
Mm.
it in that way, it's like, oh, um,
Yeah, you think twice about it before you, makes you think a little more.
right, right. But it fascinates me too with religion, how local it is. They think, yeah, but our God is our God. It's not their God. What do you think? God is not universal. He didn't make the whole world. Isn't that what Genesis says? He made the whole world. He's responsible for everything in the world. No, he's just responsible for us. Yeah, that's what they're trying to tell you, but
Mm.
they can't actually say that out loud. But that's the thinking. You just don't think that
Right.
second step. Yeah. So second step
Right.
thinking. This is a very powerful tool. Think it through to the end. Don't just get stuck in just a few steps. Yeah, look at this thing with when you think, yeah, but it's our God, and you think local. Don't think it through to the end. God made the whole dang world and the universe, and if there's aliens out there, he made them too. You know,
Right. Right.
but at least all the aliens on this world he made, right? So you
Right.
appreciate them all, and that's it. If you don't appreciate and celebrate them all, you're going against God, no?
Yeah. Yeah, just because you don't understand. Well, and that's the thing. We're oftentimes scared of things we don't understand. And there's
Exactly.
so much outside of our understanding right now, until we become aware of it. The fear can dissipate, but we don't have to hold on to that fear even by not understanding. And I
Exactly.
think that's where faith comes in, just trusting
Exactly.
that God
Exactly.
created everything in balance and harmony.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We have to trust. We have to really, really, really trust and have true faith. If you have true faith, you have to believe that the world is perfect as it is.
Mm.
In what context is it perfect? That's a different matter. Yes, but there's all sorts of horror and stuff. Is it perfect as a school for awareness? Oh, yeah. Oh,
Mm.
oh, maybe God thought you needed to learn some stuff first. So he made a perfect school,
Mm.
right?
That's
Because
right.
it's a school that shows you the good and the bad. It's a school that gives you the freedom to make bad choices. And it shows you the consequence when people exercise that freedom. How useful is that? To see all the bad stuff. Say, wow, that was because somebody was so foolish and stupid and didn't think. And yet, how much you say, well, but is it really necessary? Well, do you still keep making foolish choices? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well, see, that's why it's necessary that the horror is still out there, because even though you know it's there, you still keep doing foolish stuff. So you need to learn this more and more and more. It all makes sense.
Mm. And if you think about it, isn't that what our choice was in the garden? We chose
Exactly.
the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Like, if you
Exactly.
really step back and think
Exactly.
about it, like, that was our choice to come here. Like, that's what this is. This is learning
Exactly.
good and
Exactly.
evil.
Exactly. And now you can think, maybe God wanted you to be deliberately disobedient. Adam
Mm.
and Eve. Why? Why would he
Yeah.
want that? Because when you are deliberately being disobedient, you are deliberately thinking, you are deliberately choosing. You are able to say no to something that is not right. So deliberate disobedience is absolutely critical. It is the key difference between you and a slave or a robot.
Hmm. Yes.
Think for yourself. Why did he put the tree right in the middle and draw attention to it? If he didn't want you to eat it, he could have just not put it there, not even
Yeah.
mentioned
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just not make it all together. Why even bother
Exactly.
making or setting the
Exactly.
tree
Why
there?
put it there in the first place? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the serpent gets a bad rap. The serpent didn't tell one single lie.
Right.
Not one single lie did the serpent tell.
Mm,
It's a magical
interesting.
story to me. It's a magical story. It's a story of awareness. And when you see deliberate
Mm,
disobedience as something that God wants, because it means that you are making that step out of unawareness to awareness. Obedience just makes you a good robot. It doesn't make you good. Big difference. You can be a good robot and do
mm,
bad things because you're just being obedient. And so much through history, we see people do horrible things because they were obedient, right? All your religious wars and all the atrocities and cruelties, people were doing good, following orders, etc. Being obedient. It's one of the worst crimes that you can possibly, or the worst mindsets, the most terrible things ever out there is obedience,
mm.
blind obedience. It's a manipulation tool.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good perspective, seeing it that way.
Yeah. Philosophy of opposite. Philosophy of opposite.
Right.
When we start looking at the Adam and Eve story through this lens of opposite, which it's not exactly opposite, it takes us more or less in the space of opposite, and then we kind of go a little bit sideways, but we do that in order to give us perspective. So when we just flip that story to say, oh, it's not quite what it's pushing, which is, oh, they were disobedient and that's bad. Oh, they were disobedient and that's good. The whole story starts to make sense.
Mm,
What a magical thing.
yeah, I'm just
Mhm.
taking some notes here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really
I love
good.
that story. I love that. Also, it's a story of how people believe stuff without knowing what they believe. The only person who
Mm,
ever answered this question correctly, and you were on at the time too, was Michael. I asked, what's the reason that God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, at least according to the Bible, right? Everybody says,
uh-huh.
oh, because they were disobedient and they ate from the tree of the good and knowledge of good and evil. But that's not why. And only Michael, I've asked many, many, many people, only Michael ever said the right reason, so that they wouldn't eat from the tree of life.
That's right.
Yeah. I was really intrigued that Michael knew precisely, and he remembered the quote. Yeah.
That's right.
How is Michael? Yeah, sometimes I see him
Oh,
commenting.
yeah, they actually, him and his family, I guess he got a job offer. I don't even remember where, but yeah, they moved away, so we don't really see them
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
But last I heard, he had a really good opportunity for a job, and I think it was
right.
more
Yeah, yeah. That's the
um
last I saw too. Yeah.
north. Yeah. So
Mm,
he likes to bounce around a lot, so I hope
mm,
it works out for him. But yeah, I'd
yeah,
have to ask if Ryan talked to him, but yeah, we really haven't heard too much. But last we heard he's doing fine and had a good
excellent.
opportunity.
Good,
So
good, good. Yeah, it's
that's
good
all
egg.
I
So
know.
I'm glad it's doing good. Good, good, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
brilliant,
sure.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
I had one more note here that I just wanted to wrap it up.
Peace,
And this
peace,
is
peace.
let me look at the time. Oh yeah, we're closing in on time here. But Juliet said something to me. We're doing school and just kind of out of, I guess on her paper there was a train there. She had to follow the directions and complete some things. But she said, she just looked over at me when we were doing school the other day. She said, the most important part of the train is the front and the back. The middle is just where the people are. But the front and the back can both steer the train. And
Mm,
she even went further and said, the metro, which is what we have here, the metro
mm, mm.
has a driver both in the front and then a driver in the back. So if you
Ah,
crash, you can just go the other way.
mm,
Just so
wow.
matter of fact.
Yeah,
It was so emphasized and had such an impact. It was just kind of out of the blue. I had to write it down. I didn't want to forget it.
yeah.
But I thought about it, and I guess my takeaway with her, just very simple,
Mm,
just her simple little sharing
yeah,
with me.
yeah.
Number one, it's very important to be flexible, and it's important to be able to change directions and go with the flow.
Yeah.
So fluidity was emphasized,
Yes. Adaptability, flexibility,
adaptability.
fluidity, and yes, which is those are the key elements, or one or some of the key elements of appropriateness. Yeah.
Yes. And then two, steering your train or your ship, it's very important. Not only can you go in different directions, but instead of how she said, if you crash, you can just go the other way. Well, when you can
Right.
steer, you can actually avoid the crashes.
There you go. There you go.
And
There
that's
you
kind
go.
of what life is about. Your awareness is you're trying to, and it's not just to avoid crashes, you want to have fun and enjoy life, but a big part of it is avoiding crashes
Yes.
and avoid.
And what is one of the best?
Very good.
And that's awareness right there. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Which
See
brings us to a
trouble
really,
before it sees you.
yeah. So you can get out the way. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that we can also not just through awareness, but use anticipation as a power conception. Learn to
Mm.
anticipate. Look ahead a little bit. You see, I mean, a train driver, that's what they do. They aren't just looking right ahead of them on the track. They have to anticipate, look quite far ahead, right? Because if something is on the track, you need to see it before you ride on top of it. Then it's too late to stop. You can stop ahead of time, or if the bridge is down or whatever. So it's a very powerful analogy there. The train driver absolutely has to look as far ahead as they can to anticipate.
Yeah.
Same thing when they come
Yeah.
up to a corner. You don't start braking when you're in the corner. You have to brake
Right.
ahead of the corner. You have to anticipate, right?
Right. Right.
Driving is all about anticipation. It is a ridiculously powerful skill to anticipate. Start practicing it with people with what they say. Just anticipate. Just be aware. It's very simple. I mean, it's not a big skill to do. Really, it's pretty obvious most of the time in conversation what's coming, or anticipate their moods, and you can see what's coming. Your kids. You probably have the anticipation skill down pat with your kids.
Yeah. Right.
Very powerful. Yeah, yeah. Also, the two drivers is perspective shifting, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. So start to
Yeah,
think
because
what
it's
you're
totally
thinking.
different from one to the front or the back. Totally different.
Exactly. Exactly. Multiple options.
Multiple
Another
options.
powerful tool. Yeah. You don't just have one driver. You have two because it's safer. It's more. Give you better options, etc. So redundancy is very useful. We want those multiple perspectives gives us multiple ways of doing things, gives us that safety, gives us that redundancy, gives us that extra security, extra options. Yeah. Very useful, very powerful, very cool,
Yeah.
Julia.
Yeah, it was really neat. I
Yeah,
like when the kids are thinking and they share
yeah,
what they're thinking with me because as a kid, you're still fine tuning how you say things. You know what I mean? As an adult, you put a lot more, well, hopefully, you've put a lot more thought and time into it and the psychology of it. But as a kid, it's very simple. So you almost have to think about it a little bit more because, they're just saying what's on their mind. And the more you think about it, there's more depth there. But they're not going to share that depth with you. You got to find that for yourself. So it's very fascinating. I really appreciate the kids. They teach me quite a bit.
Mhm.
More
yes,
than I
yes,
thought they would, for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That's really, really potent, and also the most fun and exciting thing. Juliet shared observation, a thought idea, and most parents go, "Oh, that's cute," and they just leave it and let it go. But
mhm.
you made a takeaway from it, and look how much value, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well, just
applied takeaway.
mm,
How
yeah.
cool is that? How cool is that? How cool is that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I never thought I could do that before. Now I'm
It's
learning when
automatic.
something's
It's automatic.
emphasized to look closer.
Yes. Absolutely. And we'll get more into that when we get to attunement and alignment and
Mhm.
anomalies in that session. Yes.
Yes.
Big deal. Big deal. Big deal.
Hmm.
Big deal. Very, very cool. Big deal.
Hey guys,
Sue.
I have to take another call in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to say what a great session, Janelle.
Oh,
You know, there was
thanks.
so much emphasis here just in that general sense of the word, you know, with awareness, with choice we talked about and changes and take. I love the whole the conversation on change, it not being a constant and
Yeah.
you know, it's just uh, based on the root minus any contradiction. That when you really think about that, that's really pretty powerful. And the word
Yeah.
takeaways, I giggle every time someone brings that up. I know for me, for me, I never heard takeaway before in this context. Only
Mm.
in when we would go to Europe and visit our friends in the UK, they get takeaway food. We call it take out. They call it take away. So
Yeah.
that conception was always just like,
Oh, yeah.
it was too funny. Yeah.
Oh, it
And
is.
yeah, but it is, you know, when you learn how powerful and meaningful doing takeaways is, it's hard not to do them every day.
Right, right.
Because, you know,
With
and again,
everything.
with everything, and the repeat backs. I read differently now, everything that I do, because I do that repeat back and make sure I comprehended it, that I really understood that. Then my takeaway is, what did I get out
Yeah.
of it? What was
Yeah.
meaningful
Right,
Exactly.
for
Two
me?
different things. Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
different,
right.
completely different
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
the power of those two here, building that on the foundation here of this program is life changing on
Yeah.
so many
Huge.
ways.
Huge. Huge.
And it's
Huge.
easy to
Huge.
apply. It's easy to apply.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the magic. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Once you click to it, you can't stop doing it because it's
Yeah.
so useful and valuable. You can't stop doing it. It's automatic, and that's the magic. That's the magic. It's
Yeah.
automatic. Don't be late for
Perfect.
your calls, Sue. Don't be late for
Yeah.
your
I
calls.
got to run. Got to run. Have
All
a great
right.
day, everybody.
Brilliant.
We're
Thank you. You
dealing
too,
with
Sue.
almost
All right.
28 inches of snow here.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Wow! Wow!
Pretty good.
Fantastic! You lucky
Yeah.
thing. Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Nah,
snow.
nah, nah, no, not for, it's
Before
pretty
you
to
go,
look at.
Janelle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
brilliant.
I
Bye,
gotta run.
Sue.
See ya.
Okay,
Bye
All
bye,
right.
bye-bye.
hon.
Bye bye,
Bye
Sue.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. I was gonna say, yeah, I saw on Venus posts that you connect and chat with her. It makes me very happy. It's very good thing. So I
Aw,
just wanted to say connect with Beena. There's much magic there, and it
yeah,
is magical for Beena also. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I
connect with
felt
us.
like it was appropriate to reach out and,
Yeah,
it's encouraging. I mean, I'm kind of going through what
yeah,
she's
yeah.
been going through and
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I don't always reach out, but I'm working on
Right,
it.
right. But just um, in life in general, to find precious magical friends, it's not always
Yeah.
that easy. And
No,
yeah,
it's not.
but use the opportunity. So keep the connection and
Yeah.
share with her. Share because it's an opportunity where you can share and can get into discussions, and
Yeah.
it's precious to Beena. That's all I'm just
Oh,
saying by way of encouragement. It's precious to Beena. So
well,
yeah,
thank you.
and I'm assuming it's precious to you too.
It's precious to me too. Yes, it is. I
So,
appreciate our
I know
group
I
and
picked it up
her.
in the way you asked, where's Beena? You know,
Oh.
my capital H hearing, my capital H hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've learned to appreciate her perspective, you know.
Yes, me too. I love them. They're awesome. They're
Um,
awesome. Very magical. So yeah, tell
yeah.
her that, please. Tell her that.
I will. I absolutely will. So, well, really enjoyed today. Thank you. I
Yes,
feel like
very cool
a
stuff.
lot of questions and there's a clarity,
Awesome
that
stuff.
was
Awesome stuff.
found.
Yes,
So,
yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. And again, if Ryan can't make it on Thursday, I mean, I'm really hoping so that he's shifted now. It seems like he's got getting his health and vigor and energy back. But if he
yeah.
can't, then please come. You come. You come.
Okay. Yeah,
You
okay.
come.
That
You come.
sounds good.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. All right. Bye bye,
All
Janelle.
right, enjoy your day. We'll talk to you later.
Yes, you too. Thank you. Bye
All
bye.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye.